Now I've finished a whole heap of scenery work that you've seen in my previous videos. I just want to show you what I'm doing in the way of track preparation. I've cleaned up all of the things around, taken up the paper off the rails, and I'm going over all of my track, or the sections that I want to use till I get round to scenery and various other sections, with a track rubber. And I'm being quite vigorous, but merely rubbing the surface of the rails and seeing the layer of hairspray and glue, and feeling sometimes the section of ballast that's a bit too high on the outside of the rails, that I carefully take off with this triangular file so that I can get a really smooth and clean track that hopefully will take me back to slow speed running. That is the driving force for what I try to arrange. This is horribly discoloured with hairspray, which is what I've used generally to keep the flocking and sawdust in place, but of course it gets everywhere, even though you cover the track up with cardboard when you're trying to do something locally. But I'm just going over all of the track that I want to use currently in this fashion to get rid of any dirt on the rails, and as I say, to feel any raised sections where I've been a bit liberal with the glue or the ballast that will give me difficult running. And I prefer to do that now than have to use the old finger to prod things into life at a later stage. Okay, it happens to all of us, we do have to do that, but I do try and keep that to a minimum. I've done the forest in the corner, the forest canopy here, the hedges or trees each side of the track that goes down to the tunnel, the forest canopy around the corner there into the yard on this side, and I've cleaned all of the track between the end of that 800 all the way round through on the three running loops right the way round to this section, which is where I've got to currently, and I want to move all of my trains that are currently parked here around the corner into this section, which is where I'm currently cleaning all of the rails in the hope of getting some nice good running. I've also binned back and resoldered a couple of the rail joints on these sidings, because I know from previous experience there have been a couple of times when I've had to prod the engine into life. So I'm sure enough, I found 2 or 3 joints that really needed redoing. So I'm currently cleaning up all of the track in Banbury and all of the track in Toaster, so that I can move all of my trains round there to get at the rest of the track. You can see a couple of the trains inside the tunnel under the Toaster avoiding line, where I managed to bump into this island thingamy and knock them over, but that was ages ago. So as and when I get all these trains running again, I'll have to lift up the canopy around the corner there and set them straight again. But that's perhaps next week or next month. Either way, back to my rubbing the track clean. More track preparation. The question is, how far can I reach from this side? I think that's about far enough. Those are the lines into Banbury that I've just done. This is the approach to Toaster, which just has some short platforms for handling 3 or possibly 4 car DMUs or EMUs, whereas Banbury is long enough to take the full length Pendolino, even if it does have to disappear into the storage shed at the end there and come out of the Toaster avoiding lines on this side. Mind you, as a Pendolino it's reversible, I don't really have to turn it round, I can just run it in reverse. The colours of the lines is changing nicely as I get rid of the hairspray. Have to get my something there that's not right. have to get my file out. Feels like ballast or something. Oh, it's a ballast outside the track level. Not a problem for running, just a problem for keeping the rubber close to the track for cleaning purposes. Same again there. I was a bit generous with the ballast, but hey, ballast tends to be very uneven. And of course there are still large sections of my layout where the ballast really is not appropriate at all in terms of level and quantity. Yeah, and what have we got there? Immediately outside the rail. That's it. Something is above the rail level. Bit of glue in the frog perhaps. Ah, no, I know what that is. That's a section of the insel frog point right on the frog where I've put a couple of layers of nail varnish so that the wide flanges on some of my older locomotives don't run across the insulated join and short me out, because I know that's been a problem in the past. This is not the sort of thing you can do with scenery and backdrops and things in place. So I try and make a good job of it the once when I get the opportunity, and then put everything back that stays in place for, I wonder how long it is since the last time I did this sort of thing. 6 months, a year? Hey, I don't remember really. So it doesn't get done that often. Just move the camera around so as you can see me going right up to the edge of my covered area that loops round from Banbury to Toaster, and in fact loops this line round, which is the up reversing loop that avoids Banbury and avoids Toaster entirely. This one and the next three are the loops that go around under the cover from Toaster to Banbury. And the ones alongside the platform, of course, are blind sidings that terminate at Toaster. Banbury has no terminating sidings. The two platform bays both connect through to these looped tracks that give me facility to run all the way around and turn trains around. Particularly useful when I'm running my HSTs, which of course only have a motorised unit at the one end, whilst I would like to say my track work allows me to propel anything anywhere. One still has to be reasonably careful, so it's useful sometimes to turn them around. And what I must do is have another go with some yellow paint that I bought the other day and remark the axle boxes on the power units of the HSTs so that I can tell at a glance which is the front end. And there's some ballast on the inside of the track. And I just rake off to the height of the chairs on the sleepers. There we go. Get one of my footstools out so that I can reach. How far did I go? About that far. I told a lie earlier. I said that Banbury doesn't have any blind sidings, but it does. It has just this one. Just a short storage siding that doesn't get used very often. But this is horribly oversprayed with hairspray or something. However, it's cleaning up nicely. and if I don't manage to clean it up nicely now, I'm sure it will tell me later on when one of my train stalls. Ooh, horrible. Can't even hold my finger on the rubber. Not enough friction between the finger and the rubber to hold it in place. Have to grasp the size of it. One of the little tricks I used to use before I found this rubber that generally doesn't abrade. Some of the other rubbers abrade when you're using them on vigorously like this, and you get ruts in the rubber, but this one stays fairly flat. And as I was saying, one of the things I used to do before I found this was to simply use little squares of wood, and the abrasion there is enough to just clean off the surface of the rail. Got to remember to vacuum it up afterwards, of course, because this sort of dust lying around is not the sort of thing you want to have to clean up more than once. In fact, one of the little tools I made to allow me to go over various sections of the track is simply a little bit of MDF with a couple of light saw cuts at 9mm spacing that allows me to, well, it won't allow me to get over points and things, but will allow me to get into tunnels and under bridges, which can be really useful at times. In fact, it's important. Some of the sections I really can't reach any other way. One's fingers are only so long. Yes, there's a section here that I didn't get to cover up whilst I was spraying, and the result is, of course, I've got as much hairspray as one would normally expect on a bouffant hairstyle. Never mind, it is coming off. I wonder, would it come off easier using this? I don't know, it's quite easy to use far more force on this than it is on the rubber, so perhaps I should have done this to start with, so that I can get the bulk of the overspray off. Well, I'll come back over this with the rubber in a couple of minutes, see if I can judge whether this has been useful. I can still see the hairspray colouring on the rails, so it's not getting it all off. Perhaps this isn't useful. Mind you, the quantity of hairspray that I used around here was quite substantial, so it's not really surprising that I'm having difficulty. Oh well. The message is, next time cover my track up before I hairspray. One of the things I discovered was that it is easier, and I think as effective, instead of trying to tear up newspaper or cut card to the right shape to cover the sections of track that you want without overlapping the sections you want to scenery, is to use a painter's masking tape. The only question I still have is the short section just along here of track that I did use painter's masking tape on. I've yet to clean it up and then see if it's less trouble to clean up or use afterwards than it is the hairspray. Just masking tape to clean up here, or painter's masking tape, or rather the glue from the painter's masking tape, and it seems to be much less of a problem than the hairspray, which I must remember. Right, now then, yes, I've cleared all the way around there. Time to get my vacuum out and move some trains.